Good morning, Annapolis. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Only Citizens Vote bus tour. Now, I know our bus is not here right now. It's a few blocks away, but we do have it here in town, and you may have driven past it as you drove up. I am Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots Action. We have been doing this bus tour now for 3 weeks. We began planning it 11 weeks ago, and we're on the road at our first stop within 8 weeks of the conception of the idea. So thank you very much for being here. Our goal for this bus tour is to raise awareness about the SAVE Act, and we want to see the SAVE Act passed. The SAVE Act is a very simple bill that has already passed has passed the House twice, once in the last Congress and once in this Congress. It simply requires proof of citizenship to register to vote. Over 80% of Americans agree only American citizens should vote in American elections for president, Senate, and Congress. And in fact, 86% of Americans agree that we should show proof of citizenship to register to vote. The fact that we have not been able to have a vote on it in the Senate, I think shows that in the last Senate, we had Schumer playing very partisan politics. And in this Senate, we will have to get a filibuster. We have to get to 60 votes to overcome a filibuster to get a vote on it. And I think, again, it shows that the radical left is working to play partisan politics. Yeah, come on up. Come on up. You can get a little bit closer. You'll be able to see everyone, get better photos that way. And it'll feel a little bit more intimate as we're talking to you. Now, I first learned about the issue and why we would need something like the SAVE Act about 3 years ago when I was in the state of Arizona. In Arizona, they actually require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It shouldn't be something that's very controversial, and they're a border state. It makes a lot of sense. They were sued over this. And when they were sued, they went all the way to the Supreme Court about a decade or so ago, and the Supreme Court ruled that they must accept the form that stems from the Motor Voter Law, which is the National Voter Registration Act. So that is the law that empowers us and enables us to register to vote from the driver's license offices. And on the form that stems from that law, there is a simple checkbox where you check and affirm you are a United States citizen. It does not require proof of citizenship. And the Supreme Court ruled Arizona must accept those forms and register people to vote who have only checked the box. So Arizona bifurcated their ballot. If you've shown proof of citizenship, you get a ballot with president, Senate, Congress, governor, lieutenant governor, all the way on down to their most local level, school board or whatever their most local level is. If, however, in that border state, you have not shown proof of citizenship, you still get a ballot. It's called the federal-only ballot, and you get to vote for president, Senate, and Congress. It's kind of messed up. Now, to the Supreme Court's credit, and I am a constitutional conservative, they did not create law out of whole cloth from the bench. They said you've got to accept the form stems from the law. Now, President Trump and his administration has the executive authority to modify the form, and he is working to modify the form so it will require proof of citizenship. I want to ensure that that change that he is making is codified into law so no president can come back and undo it and get us back to where we are right now, where we don't require it. And that's why we're doing this. So our goal is to get the SAVE Act passed, and to get it passed, we've got to at least get a vote in the Senate. If we can't get it passed in the Senate, then we need to look at attaching it to must-pass legislation. Those are the kind of bills like what will be coming up this month, the continuing resolutions or appropriation bills, or later in December, there'll be a deadline for the National Defense Authorization Act. These are bills that eventually, the minority party in the Senate votes for because they don't want to have a government shutdown going on forever, or they feel like they must pass the National Defense Authorization Act. So if we can attach it to a bill like that, then we have a better chance of passing it. And if we can't get it attached to must-pass legislation, at the very least, we need to see which senators are willing to go against 87% of the American people and not vote for the bill. So that is our goal, and that's why we're out here. And when you checked in, you should have signed. When you checked in, you could check a box to sign your name to a petition, and we'll be delivering those petitions to Capitol Hill on Wednesday as we wrap up the tour. I'll tell you more about that at the end. So that explains what we're doing, why we're here, and now you're going to get to hear from people from your great state of Maryland, and we're going to start off with House Freedom Caucus Chairman Congressman Andy Harris, who is a stalwart constitutional conservative, and you are so lucky to have him as one of your representatives from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Jenny Beth. Look, it's pretty stunning because if you paid attention to what Jenny Beth talked about, the Democrats have made this a partisan issue. They truly believe that we should not have enforceable law that only citizens vote. Now, I'll extend that in Maryland. They should be living citizens, and they should actually reside where they are registered. Because in Maryland, we have real problems. We have a problem where you can check off a box and have a ballot delivered to you forever. Now, the average American moves 11 to 12 times in their lifetime. But that ballot will continue forever being delivered to an address. That's just not right. The bottom line is we have to start with the most obvious. Only citizens should vote. Now, that bill will easily pass the House. And by the way, they'll tell you, well, it's not true. They already can't vote. No, Jenny Beth explained the situation in Arizona. We need to change the law so illegal immigrants and people who are not citizens really can't vote in America. And, of course, we live in a state where jurisdictions allow even illegal aliens, not just non-citizens, but illegal aliens, to vote for things as important as a school board, for instance. That's not right. That's not right. You're not a citizen. You shouldn't be voting in this country, period, full stop. That's why we need the SAVE Act. Yeah, we're going to look for a way to kind of jam it through Chuck Schumer. Could be a little difficult because, again, the Democrats like the system the way it is. That's why in Maryland, the State Board of Elections, controlled by Democrats, is not cooperating with the federal government in terms of sharing their voter list, because the federal government just wants to see if Maryland, in fact, has a proper voter roll. Maryland doesn't want to do it. They say their rolls are good. Well, I'll tell you, I know for a fact that people who move out of state, their names don't get dropped off the rolls. A lot of people who are deceased don't get dropped off the rolls, and certainly we don't know how many illegal immigrants in Maryland are voting. We need to do that. We need the SAVE Act. We need it sooner rather than later. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today, standing up for our constitutional right.
Thank you so much, Congressman Harris. And now you're going to hear from someone who's with the State Freedom Caucus Network, and the State Freedom Caucus Network has been one of our coalition partners as we've gone around the country, the chairman of the Maryland Freedom Caucus, Delegate Matt Morgan.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out here today. So you might have seen a little bit of a viral video from our past session here, me and the speaker going at it a little bit. And we were debating a bill that cracked down on criminal illegal aliens and turning them over to ICE once they've committed a crime. And we had a bill, and Democrats ended up poison pilling that bill at the end with an amendment, stripped out the 287G program, a program that's made our citizens a lot more safer. And they did some stuff administratively in the bill that made it just completely worthless. And I stood on the House floor, and our rules are you have to address the speaker. And I said, Madam Speaker, what's become painfully obvious this legislative session, if the Maryland people are on one side on an issue and that issue conflicts with the agenda of the Democratic Party, the representatives here will follow the party every single time. She was like, that's not true. And I said, but Madam Speaker, it is true. It's true on taxes, on issues like crime and voter ID. Imagine if we took a statewide poll and say, should only citizens vote in Maryland? That issue would come back at 60, 70, probably close to 80%. We polled voter ID many times. It comes back at the 75, 80%. But yet, every time we tried to drop an amendment, every time we sponsor a bill, It's met with the same face. You're told that you're disenfranchising minorities, and then whoever puts that bill in is immediately demonized as a bigot. It's not true. And I'm going to ask you this. Do you honestly believe they believe that? I was just reminded last week. See, I represent St. Mary's County in southern Maryland. And that's a part of the state where I'll say that county fairs and community matter still. And for my entire life, the county fairs are the last month of September. It goes Charles County, St. Mary's, Calvert. Last week, the Charles County Fair came out with a policy that to enter the fair, you must show an ID. Now, I find that interesting from a county that's completely governed by Democrats locally in their state delegation, that's minority majority. So if they're willing to enforce this on something as trivial as entering the fair, they should be able to do this for something that is important as your federal, state, and local elections. That is only common sense. And now here's my challenge for you. You've all done a great job with this rally. We absolutely support you. But here's the challenge. There's 102 Democrats in the House chamber here. Many more in the state Senate, many more candidates running next year in next year's election. Go out and try to find a handful, just a handful of Democrats that are willing to stand up to their party and do something that what their job entails. They're representatives. The people want this. This is common sense. I wish you luck. Thank you so much for coming out here with us. God bless.
Thank you very much. And now we are going to go to the Vice Chairman of the Maryland Freedom Caucus, and that is Delegate Kathy Szeliga.
Thanks. Good morning. Good to see you all. What a great day. So let me ask you, do you think non-citizens vote in Maryland elections? Well, we know they do because 16 jurisdictions in Maryland allow non-citizens to vote. They already do it, not just Tacoma Park, but 15 other local elections allow non-citizens to vote. This is imperative that we pass this at the federal level. Only citizens vote. Those arguments can be made in those local elections, but imagine putting illegal immigrants and non-citizens on the voter rolls, because they're on there to vote in those local elections, and then trying to sort it out when they show up without an ID. Can you go in that building without an ID? No. The House office building, Senate office building, if you want to visit your state elected official, can you see them without an ID? No. This is common sense. This is an 80-20 or 90-10 issue. We're tired of the Democrats gaslighting us and telling us there's no crime and non-citizens don't vote, because we know it's true. I want to thank the Only Citizens Vote group for coming here and shedding a light on this important issue. Together, we're going to do it.
Thank you very much. In fact, I just went to the restroom in that building over there and had to show an ID to get inside to go to the restroom. So the restroom is protected more than your ballots. It does not make a lot of common sense at all. Yet a lot of the arguments that the left and the people who are opposing this don't make a lot of sense. One of the arguments against only citizens voting is, frankly, I think a very sexist argument. As a woman, they say that women won't be able to show their proof of citizenship because their name changes when they get married. Any woman who's changed her name when she has gotten married, or like me, also divorced and has to keep up with several different vital documents, understands you keep your birth certificate, you keep your marriage certificate, you keep your divorce decree, and it's really not that complicated. We're smart enough to figure this out every day when in our married life, and it's just an insult, frankly, to think that women are too stupid to figure this out. Our next speaker is going to be the whip of the Maryland Freedom Caucus, and that is Ryan Naraki.
Good morning, everyone. Isn't this an awesome day? The Lord just blessed us with an awesome day today. It's so good. And He has sent us a mission here today to change the way that this country functions, not just Maryland, the country. And that's what these folks are doing, and that's what the leadership of Congressman Harris is doing in Washington. So let's talk about, this isn't a theoretical issue. Let's talk about the congressman for a moment. About a decade or so ago, he ran against someone, a Democrat, who had committed voter fraud, who had voted several times illegally in Florida and in Maryland, and got caught doing so. This isn't a theoretical construct. Here's someone running for Congress doing that, committing voter fraud. This isn't something that can just happen or might happen. That's a true story. You can go look it up. Go look it up. It's even in, CNN and places like that. They even covered it, right? So it's a real story. This is something real. I'm glad that we're talking about the idea of that women or others are going to be disenfranchised somehow because of this change. Well, has anyone gone to like the gas station recently and, you have to show ID, for instance, when you get cigarettes or if you get alcohol, right? Is there a crisis of people not being able to purchase cigarettes in this state or being able to purchase alcohol in this state or, being able to get Sudafed at Target because they can't show ID? Of course not. As Delegate Shalega said, we're being gaslit on these issues, frankly, to continue a corrupt voting system that only benefits one party. When you scrub voter rolls across the country, and many states do this, what you always see, it's universal. Every state, when you scrub the voter rolls, Democrats lose a heck of a lot of more voters than Republicans do in every state across the country. Why is that? That's because it's a corrupt system that is rigged to cheat, and we all should be everybody. This isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a good government issue that all of us should want to secure the vote. We should want to have integrity in the voting system. Access is important. Equally important is integrity in the voting system, and that's why we need this bill, and that's why we thankfully have members like Congressman Harris in Washington. They're doing the Lord's work to help deliver this. Thank you for coming out here today.
Thank you very much. Another myth is that it would be harder to vote by mail and harder for the military and minorities to vote. It wouldn't be harder to vote by mail. This is voter registration. At voter registration, when you show your proof of citizenship, not when you are going to cast your ballot. So you only have to do it when you're registering to vote. Furthermore, the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, or what the election integrity advocates will know as UACAVA, was created to help overseas service members and their families vote. But there is no uniform proof of citizenship requirement for registration for UACAVA voters and no ID requirement when they cast their ballots from abroad. In many jurisdictions, UACAVA ballots can be returned electronically, and in 2020, 63% of UACAVA ballots were civilians, meaning a large share of overseas ballots were done without any sort of citizenship check. Who are these civilians and are they citizens? Requiring proof of citizenship at registration would close this gap without blocking lawful military voting. Any claim that Americans of color or poor Americans are not able to acquire an ID is both false and insulting. Government-issued IDs are available to anyone, and we've already addressed some of that here today. Okay, our next speaker is going to be Delegate Latoya Congolo, and she is speaking next.
Well, hello, everyone. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces and fighters here, and we appreciate the collaboration with you all. I just want to share a couple of things. So this morning, I went to the MVA to do a name change on my driver's license. So on the ballot next year, my name will read Latoya Marie Caldwell Congolo. That is my name, right? So when I went there, I went prepared with my Social Security card, my marriage certificate, and my birth certificate, and my passport. The woman that was assisting me did not ask for any information. She didn't ask me for anything. I gave her my passport. I had to offer it up to her. But it just shows how the system is not really doing anything to proof, to proof these people that are applying for IDs or applying to register to vote. They're not asking for anything. All you have to do is click a button and you sign, and there you are. You're now a registered voter. You now have an ID. So all we're asking is what common people are asking is that the majority of us, we all have IDs. How many people here have IDs? Right, okay? To do anything in this world, you need an ID. It is not that hard, but we need to hold people accountable to make sure that the people that are holding IDs, that are voting, are American citizens. We are the ones that are making decisions for our country. We're the ones that are determining who is going to represent us, whether it be at the federal level, state, or local level, and that's all we're asking for. Like my colleague said, this is common sense. It's something that most of us agree on, but we need you all to help us to fight this, to continue to fight it. So I just appreciate you all being here to support. Thank you all. We need you and we appreciate you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from Delegate Brian Chisholm.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm Delegate Brian Chisholm from Anne Arundel County. When you're in politics, you'll start to see issues, and they all follow the same pattern nowadays. Oh, come on. That's not happening, but we're glad that it is. And then it goes to, okay, it's happening, but you're a racist if you want to stop it. Then they get to, well, both sides are doing it. Okay. If both sides are doing it, why not pass the SAVE Act? Why not preserve the most precious right we have? Now, look, I'm a little bit older than Congressman Harris, so I go back to the Federalist Papers. So I think about, you know, you had Alexander Hamilton and James Madison sitting at the Starbucks writing the papers. And then you have, you know, Patrick Henry down at Ram's Head drinking beer. And they were at odds on a lot of things. But one thing that they knew they were together on was the citizens had to have their thoughts, their rights, and their wishes counted. Some of them thought through the Republic, all right, we'll have representative government. Patrick Henry thought more, we want every citizen to come down and vote on every issue. But what they believed was, if we couldn't preserve that right for every individual, the Republic was dead. It would not survive. And I'm afraid that's where we are right now. Do we actually have a Republic if we have people voting that aren't citizens of the country they're sitting in? That's absurd. That is crazy to me. This is the most precious right we have. People die in other countries to try and get this right. We have it here and we want to piss it away. That scares me. That's the end of the Republic if we don't preserve our right to only allow our citizens to vote for the things that they're going to either inherit, to gain their view of government through. Even if they don't win, they got to voice their right. They got to vote. I thank all of these people that have put their passions behind this. It is the most important issue of our day. And we have a lot of crazy stuff that goes on. If we lose our right to vote as citizens, as a block of the United States of America, the Republic is dead. And Hamilton and Patrick Henry's worst nightmares will have been met. So thank you for the fight. It's the most important thing out here today.
Thank you very much. And Brian just addressed one of the other myths is that the left will say, well, it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote, so we don't need the SAVE Act. And it is illegal, but it still happens, which he mentioned. Also, it's illegal to break the speed limit when you go down the road, and yet we still have cops who are checking for your speed from time to time. A 2024 study found that 10 to 27% of non-citizens reported being registered to vote. One reason is the current federal voter registration form only requires that checkbox I mentioned before. No documentary proof is required. And election officials right now under law cannot, they're not allowed to check it as they're registering to vote, to check proof of citizenship. So the SAVE Act will fix that. Our next speaker is a former delegate, Neil Parrott.
Well, good morning. First, I would say thank you to Mary Beth Barton and the Tea Party Patriots. They have gone across the country supporting the SAVE Act. And as we hear from all these speakers, we know just how important it is that this passes Congress this year. We can only have U.S. citizens that vote. If we allow illegal aliens, we allow people who are here on a green card to vote, it takes away our rights. How many of you people here, has anyone served in the military? Raise your hands. Thank you. Thank you for your service. But when we think about that, why do we fight in the military? Why do we have a military? It's to support our country, to support our U.S. Constitution. And yet if we turn our voting over to people who don't live here, don't have our best interests in mind, and are voting, what are we fighting for? And I'm thankful for each of you being here today to fight to save our republic the way we have it. I want to thank all the leaders behind me. I want to thank Andy Harris. He stands strong for us every single day in Congress, and I'm so grateful for what he is doing. But the grassroots, we need each one of you, and we need friends to go back and say we have to stand up for the SAVE Act. We've got to get this passed. We cannot allow illegal aliens to vote in our elections. You know, right now, I'm from Western Maryland, and as several of you here are from Western Maryland. In the city of Frederick, they've passed it where you can vote as an illegal alien. So if you're doing the city of Frederick elections, it's totally legal for illegal aliens to vote there. I think it's a total mistake, but if the city of Frederick wants to do that, okay. But they should not be voting for Congress, for Senate, for president, no way. And yet, if we don't pass this bill, that's exactly what will happen in the city of Frederick. Also, we talked about voter ID. You know, I just heard this week that in Montgomery County, who is totally opposed to voter ID, by the way, in Montgomery County, if you want to go to the recycle place or to the trash dump, you have to show an ID. If you have to show an ID to throw your trash away, you must show your ID to vote. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
Thank you very much. One of our local coalition partners was not able to be here, but I do want to give a shout out to the Maryland Voter Integrity Group for helping organize and for getting the word out today. And another Maryland group, the Maryland Secure the Vote, we have next speaking with us, and it will be Kate Sullivan speaking.
Thank you. Thank you. So for those of you who don't know what Secure the Vote MD is, we are an election watchdog group for Maryland. And I'm gonna say something that I haven't said in at least 4 years, which is I love what's happening in D.C. I think what's happening in D.C. is the best thing in 4 years. So the SAVE Act is wonderful. Trump's executive orders are wonderful. We want voter ID. We love the air cover. Secure the Vote loves that federal air cover. But the problem is that all politics are local. And we are the ones that have to save our elections. We would love it if the SAVE Act could come in and save us all. And I strongly support it. And I'm so grateful that we were chosen as one of the Whistletop Places tours on your big tour across the country. But Secure the Vote has been fighting for election integrity in Maryland. And another great thing that I have not said in a while is I love what's happening in Annapolis. Because if you guys are not aware, the Freedom Caucus Maryland has really had an incredible voice. In the last year in particular, I strongly recommend, share those viral clips of them arguing on the floor. I live for it. It's like right in my veins. I love it. So they are fighting for us. And Secure the Vote has connected with them, and they've been a tremendous support. But the problem is that message isn't getting out there. And God love all of you for being here. But this crowd should be about 4 times for the importance of this issue. So you have to take the things that we talk about today and you have to share them with 25 people. You have to go to securethevotemd.com. We've got incredible data on that to share, to inspire those naysayers who say our elections are wonderful and safe and secure. We've got some good data on there. Only Citizens Vote. Share their website. If you are not good at arguing with people, just send them to the data. And I'm going to give you 2 data points. So Secure the Vote has done amazing work in terms of getting that data. And one of them is 238,000 illegal registrations are currently on our voter rolls. Those are people who are dead. Those are people who are duplicate. Those are people who have moved. That's our biggest 60,000 plus. They're not maintaining our rolls. They will tell you they are. I don't know if any of you had a chance to read our press release on the DOJ and the State Board of Election dust up. Very interesting work. I strongly recommend you go through that. Yes, the DOJ agrees with us. That another important data point. Why is it that Maryland is 98% registered vote? Are we that amazing that we are above the 75% national average? I don't think so. And for those of you who are trying to figure out that math, that delta is all the bloat in our rolls. So I'm not here there's a lot of important people here today, and I'm not going to go on, but I want all of you to check out our website, Secure the Vote MD. I want you to make sure you see those data points and you go to people with the data. Stop the emotions, just go to them with the facts. We want voter ID. And by the way, own your own registrations. Please make sure your registrations are up to date. Your mother that died last year, make sure she's no longer on the rolls. Those are other ways we can make sure that we own our own registrations. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate. If you want any more information, we'll be a lot of members of Secure the Voter in this crowd today. Please see one of us. We'd love to share all of our data. And thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much, Kate. It really is a pleasure to be here in Maryland, and I'm going to go to our coalition partners in just a second, but you mentioned you were glad we stopped here in Maryland. It's our honor and our privilege. You have the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. The House Freedom Caucus just celebrated 10 years. They've been around for a decade now. They stand for constitutionally limited government in our House of Representatives, and they fight every single day, day in and day out, working to make sure that they are helping us secure our freedom and helping President Trump keep his promises. They know the promises President Trump made on the campaign trail, and they are looking every single day for ways to help codify those promises he made so that it isn't just done through executive order, but so that it is passed into law and another president cannot easily undo it. And oftentimes, the House Freedom Caucus kind of gets beat up in the press, I think quite unjustly. But sometimes when you're standing up and fighting for what matters, you do take a few arrows, and then you're just over the target. And I'm so thankful that Congressman Andy Harris was here to join us, and it's my honor and privilege to be able to be in his home state today. Now we're going to go to Rosemary Jinks, who's with the Immigration Accountability Project. She's one of our coalition partners. She's been fighting to stop amnesty the entire time I've known her. The reason we don't have amnesty in America is in very large part because of Rosemary and Stephen Miller, and I'm so thankful you're here today, Rosemary.
Thank you so much, Jenny Beth. I just want to start by saying it is just truly a pleasure for the Immigration Accountability Project to partner with Jenny Beth and her entire team at Tea Party Patriots Action. They have done phenomenal work over these last 3 weeks, driving across the country in this big, huge bus. If you haven't seen the bus, you need to go look at the bus. My role in this as the Immigration Accountability Project, our mission is to hold members of Congress accountable for their actions on immigration. And I will tell you, there's one member of Congress from Maryland who we don't really have to worry about. Thank you, Congressman Harris. The rest of them we have a lot of worries about. But the reason I am here is because we in the United States right now have the largest foreign-born population that we have ever had in our entire history, including at the turn of the last century during the Great Wave of immigration. It's higher now, both in number and percentage. That means that we have a giant number of non-citizens in this country, well over 30 million. And the problem with that is that, especially under the Biden administration, not just legal immigrants, but illegal aliens were being given work permits. And every non-citizen who is given a work permit is automatically issued a Social Security number. In addition to that, 19 states plus the District of Columbia issued driver's licenses to just straight up illegal aliens. Every state, all 50 states and the District of Columbia issue driver's licenses, including real IDs, to non-citizens. Every state. So with a driver's license and a social security number, all of these non-citizens, including illegal aliens, have everything they need to register to vote under current law. Now imagine this. If a newly arrived immigrant, legal or illegal, goes into a motor vehicle department and wants to get a driver's license, under federal motor voter law, they're handed a registration form. You have to check a box and then sign your name under penalty of perjury. If you don't speak English, I pretty much guarantee that you cannot read what you are signing. So if the DMV employee says, just check the box and sign it, that's exactly what they're going to do, and they are now registered to vote. And if you're in a mail-in ballot state, you're going to be mailed a ballot, and you're going to vote the ballot because you don't know that you're not supposed to. Now, there are some non-citizens who intentionally and fraudulently vote in our elections and register to vote. There are also a lot who are accidentally signed up, registered to vote because they don't know any better, and they have essentially been entrapped by motor vehicle employees to check the box and sign their names. That is wrong. It is a deportable offense to register to vote illegally. It is a deportable offense to vote illegally. They are ineligible for naturalization because of this one act. So, I mean, if you care at all about non-citizens in this country, you shouldn't be encouraging them to commit felonies by accident. This is ridiculous. It is time to change this law. It is time to force Senator Thune to put the SAVE Act up for a vote in the Senate. I hope you will all call your senators and tell them it's time to vote for this. We need to change the laws and protect our God-given right to determine the future of our country. Thank you.
Great job, Rosemary. And now for our last coalition partner who's here with us today. But we do have a few others, including the Election Transparency Network or project, and then also the Election Integrity Network. So they are not able to join us, but we are very fortunate because we've got the Texas Public Policy Foundation, who has been a coalition partner with us, helped us get this bill crafted, and they're going to speak today now, and it's Josh Finley.
Thank you. I'm Josh Finley with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. I run our National Election Protection Project. And one of the authors and original co-sponsors of this bill was Representative Chip Roy from Texas. So we are a large supporter of only citizens voting. This is something that means a lot to us. And I want to thank Congressman Harris for coming out, the members of the State House Freedom Caucus, Jenny Beth and the Tea Party Patriots. And I especially want to thank all of the citizens that have come out from California to Maryland, from Michigan and Wisconsin, down to Texas and Georgia, to show Washington that only citizens should be voting in United States elections. Now, if you look on the sign back there, it says 80% of Americans agree on this. I think the polling actually on this issue is closer to 87%. That means 9 out of 10 Americans believe that only citizens should be voting in our elections. It's important to note that this is not just a polling number. When Americans have the chance to vote on this issue, they support only citizens voting. Now, Rosemary talked a little bit about how increased voter ID requirements, it's not a complete correlation with only citizen voting, right? Because many states give IDs and give the opportunity to register driver's licenses to non-citizens. But getting voter ID laws passed helps make it so that only American citizens can vote in our elections. Last November, when Americans had the opportunity in citizen initiatives, voting directly on policy, there were 8 different states that passed voter ID or only citizen vote initiatives. Not only that, but Wisconsin had a controversial Supreme Court race earlier this year. Some of y'all may have heard about that. It captured the news quite a bit at the beginning of the year. In that Supreme Court race, a leftist was elected to the Supreme Court largely on election integrity issues. They have a very activist Supreme Court up there. What the media never talks about, though, is that on that exact same ballot, a citizen initiative was passed to increase voter ID requirements, making it harder for non-citizens to vote. So we can talk about how politicized this issue is. When it gets tied to parties and candidates, yes, it becomes politicized. But when citizens have a chance to vote on this directly, they overwhelmingly support the idea that only citizens should vote. Thank you for coming out. We need to let Washington know that we need to get this done. We need to get this law passed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh. And we have one more delegate from your state house, and that is Bob Long. He's going to speak next.
Thank you. It's a great morning to be out here. We need to band together and fight. We've had legislation in the Maryland General Assembly to require voter ID for the last 10 years. Neil Parrott, I picked it up from Neil Parrott, will not get passed. We've also required that they be signature verification for mail-in ballots. We have the technology. There's no reason we can't do it. If we're going to continue with the mail-in ballots, we need to make sure they're the signatures they belong to. One thing we need to do, and that's for sure, is all of us get out and vote, because it's pitiful. 25% of the registered Republicans come out to vote. Hey, everybody comes out to vote, we can make a difference. We sure got to keep fighting, that's for sure, especially for this great state. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you very much. So that wraps up the speakers today. Now I'm going to go through the call to action for you. We've got petitions that are where you were in the sign-up table. When you filled out the form, you checked it off, and you got your name added to the petition. But we have petitions that I'd like you to take when you leave, and go and get your friends and your family and your neighbors and your coworkers to sign these petitions supporting the SAVE Act. And again, as Josh mentioned, as I've mentioned, 87% of Americans agree only Americans should be voting in American elections for president, Senate, and Congress. 9 out of 10 people you speak to are going to agree with you on this. It's common sense. It's not one that's going to be like really hotly contested and will be difficult for you to get them to agree. So do that. We are not going to be voting on the bill this week in the Senate, so we have time to continue to get more. Right now, we have about 45,000 signatures on the petitions. We will be delivering those on Wednesday to Capitol Hill. So we wrap up our bus tour on Wednesday on Capitol Hill. We'll have some speakers, some members of the House and Senate who are speaking, coalition partners, and the main purpose of the event on Wednesday is to take those petitions and deliver them to the Senate offices, and also go back and deliver them to the House offices. We want this bill passed. It's something that is common sense, and we need to get it done. So the more signatures that you get for those petitions, after you do it, you can take a photo of it, email it to us, and we will make sure that your senators and the appropriate congressmen get some petitions as well. So that is your call to action for today. Now, that is the main part of our program, and we're going